welcome back to the podcast, you guys. I'm really excited for this episode because not only is it the last episode of season 4, we're rounding it out with talking all about relationships and how we have been together. We're going on 11 years and how we feel like that has helped us in a lot of ways, and also maybe like the hardships, because trust me, there definitely are hard times in that we're married and we also are business owners and we do everything together. So we're just going to like lay it all out on the table. And I hope to really inspire a lot of you, because I will say, I think, and I hope you agree with me, but that the positives do outweigh
100%.
like the hardships, right? Because I really feel like we would not be where we are today and how young we are and how successful everything that we've built without having each other. And I really feel like we bring so much different things to the table. And I really hope to inspire you if you're listening to this, and let's say your partner, your boyfriend, husband, girlfriend, whatever it is. I feel like there's so much potential and opportunity for someone who is really close to you to come into your business and actually make you so much money.
Yep.
So I'm excited to get into it.
We want to help you guys understand how to look at bringing your significant other into the business in an ROI positive way.
Yeah, for sure. Because I feel like obviously it's a talked about thing. Even people will ask us like, I want to bring in my husband. How do I do this? How do I do that? But I think actually conceptualizing and then actually doing it and being profitable and having an ROI are very different things. And we obviously have had success with it. And so I want to just like share all that we've done. So, okay, why don't we give some context first to the people of who we are?
Okay.
So
Becca and I have been honestly together since long before the business side of things was a part of our life.
Obviously we were 15.
We were children.
We were literally children.
Started dating in high school.
Yeah.
We were both like kind of like the leaders of our friend groups. We were both like in this like party world. And kind of, I don't know, I feel like we kind of immediately kicked things off right.
We were both extremely naughty though, I would say.
Yeah.
Right. You agree with that?
Is that like a wink? Are you winking at
You
me?
agree with that. We were extremely naughty.
Yeah, we definitely grew up with a very unique, I would say, avant-garde childhood, adolescence, even more so than childhood.
Yeah.
And so we found each other. We had known each other for a couple of years. So we actually met each other when we were like pre-teenagers almost, and then didn't see each other for a couple of years.
Yeah, we would have met like in the summer of going into 7th grade, I think.
Maybe 8th, but in middle school, which is wild to think about. And then didn't see each other for a while. And then we're at a show of a DJ that I had really liked at the time. Was rolling, and we were in the crowd at a Bass Nectar show. Lights are going crazy.
So when I said naughty, you guys, I meant naughty.
15
we were
years
like straight
old.
ravers. I had like, if you know the world of raving, and even if you don't, this might just like be super
Becca was
amusing.
like dripped in candy.
Fully
and
had candy. Like I'm not even kidding, from like my wrist all the way up pretty much to like my fucking elbows.
Some
and like
fluffies
and fishnet tights, the shortest shorts that are practically just undies, and then like a tiny little bra. The fact that I was like 15 years old, like
honestly. So we meet in the crowd, we hit it off. We end up having a wild night that I feel like when we tell others, it sounds like you're like on some super sketchy shit, but it was only just minorly sketchy.
we were straight adolescents though, because after the show we went, so I actually had a family member visiting town. I asked my mom if we could stay with her in her hotel. My mom said no. So I was like, okay, fine. I'll sleep at my friend's house. But we didn't actually do that. We ended up, Willow and I and a few of our friends ended up going to 7-Eleven and stealing boxed wine.
Like any good night story.
Going and sleeping on like a church parking lot stoops.
Hanging out all night long. And so that was the first night. And then pretty much everything just picked up from there. We both like practically moved in with each other at that point. We started like living,
spending every single day together.
Yeah. And it's funny too, because now we have this whole like business together, but it's funny too, because actually at that chapter we started dating and we both got the same jobs at the same restaurant. And it was this big, like almost like college-esque environment. It was a huge restaurant, huge bar.
I mean,
so many people working at the same time. And so it was like a party. And
it was literally like, it's funny because we obviously didn't go to college. Well, we did go to college for a hot sec. But I feel like working at this restaurant was our college years.
Honestly.
Because if you know, it was at the old spaghetti factory, which is fucking hilarious. And I was a host and he was a food runner. And it was so big. There are so many employees and everyone is between like 16.
16 and 30.
Yeah. And everyone is just like friends. You get off, you go get drinks. Everyone's at the same parties and everything. And it was literally like we went to college. I feel like that was like our college years
Becca
together.
And I also both I got a fake ID maybe a couple weeks into turning 15. Becca got one when she was 16. And so like from that point on,
we were adults.
We were adults in this weird fallacy of a way.
No, we were literally like adults.
We were like, all of our friends, everyone I feel like I knew had a fake ID. We'd go out to bars like during high school. Like, we just want to skip this period. Let's go get some drinks.
No, the funniest thing is that if we were to go to a bar now, being totally legal, no, we'd probably still go to the same bars that we were going to when we were 16. And like the same bartender is probably like, what the fuck?
So fast forward, we start working together. We start realizing that like actually like beyond just being like a partying teenager, that a lot of goals of ours actually aligned in this like, wait a minute, I think that we can actually like become adults. I think that we're going to stay together. I think that there was such a foundational time of our life, of really anyone's life, of trying to figure out like, what are you supposed to do as an adult? And also now you're an adult. And so we had multiple phases of like jobs. We kind of both went in, we kind of progressed so that we obviously were like very money hungry at all of these stages. Even if it was like working at a restaurant, we were both like hustling. We would both work a ton. Like honestly, to think back and like there were so many times where we'd be like in school, working full time, hustling on the side, no matter what, like grinding so that we could kind of progress.
We definitely had really similar like work ethic. Like we both got cars. We were like the first people in our friend group to have cars. We were the first people, like as stupid as it is to look back, like we were the first people to have like fake IDs and do all these things. This is
also not parents buying this. This is completely Becca and I figuring out how to get this shit on our own.
We were just both extremely resourceful. Yeah. And so I think we just connected on that for sure. Yeah. But then I also think that our upbringing, like he had mentioned before, were so similar that I think that played a lot because we like instantly almost had this like familial vibe. Our families connected so much. Our moms were both 20 years old when they had us and, you know, we're like hippie, free spirit. And I think like just the morals and values that we were raised with we could have been like,
or the lack of morals and values that we were raised with.
Sorry guys. But I mean, no, I disagree with that. No, I just think it's different.
Like, in like a very
non-traditional, which I love and I wouldn't have changed it for anything. But I think we were able to connect. Like I've had friends obviously that come from completely different backgrounds. And I'm like, how do you guys like make that work? Honestly. Like you guys literally grew up in different worlds and me and you grew up in the same exact world, just in different states and didn't know each other until we found each other. But I think it allowed us to connect like really like emotionally deep really early on. And then I think because
I feel like we got trauma bonded as a
honestly
teenager. We had like so many experiences that were so
crazy,
like, kind of like wild beyond belief that I feel like there was like some sort of trauma bond initiated then.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is really what paved the way for the next chapter because during that initial one, it was honestly like we were fighting a ton because we were both trying to figure out like what to do. And I feel
figuring out who even we were.
Yeah. And I feel like that time period, it's really hard to actually figure that out with somebody else. You kind of have to be independent in those ways. And so then we learned about online business, really started being fascinated with it as like an ulterior or like an alternative way of creating a career.
But before we even found the online space, we obviously had like a good chunk of time where we just were traveling and we would work really hard when we were in town, and then we would quit our jobs, take all the money that we had saved up and travel. And that was kind of like a cycle that we did. But I think how we both were like that was because we both grew up not well off at all. Like we really desired to create financial freedom and
just freedom,
wealth.
like as just a whole. I feel like it's time, it's money, it's all
totally.
of it.
Well, but our parents, I think, taught us how to be free spirited for sure. Like my parents met on Grateful Dead tour and were like the most free spirited fucking hippie. If you could watch like a hippy dippy Netflix documentary on
or like Dazed and Confused,
literally that is my family, and your family is not far off. And so I think we actually were raised to be very free spirited. I think naturally, maybe you're not as free spirited as I am, but I think just you do have that element. You were raised that way. So we always wanted to be free spirited, to be able to travel and do all of that. But I think we wanted more money. We wanted more stability, and we wanted to do it 10 times more like luxe and elevated than maybe we grew up, but we related on that together so much. Like literally when we first went on our maybe first road trip, you know, cross country, which is fucking crazy, when we were like 16, 17, we like all of those things, like pieces fell into place. We were like, we literally are like the same person. Like we want the same thing out of life.
Absolutely. So at that point, I feel like where we like left the world of almost like partying while we were still in it, I feel like where we really came to like our first adult point of like actual determination and connection was around the freedom of traveling. I feel like when we started traveling together, it was like, no matter what your job's going to be, no matter what my job's going to be, this is kind of like what we're doing that for. This is what we're working for. And so then in that time, we were doing these jobs where it was like kind of like the gig economy, where you'd work, you'd make as much as you could, and then you'd quit, and then you'd leave and pretty much start it again when you come back.
Or like the time that was it before Central America or after that we went and drove to Humboldt and we trimmed weed, and it was like the first time
before.
So I grew up trimming weed. That was like the gig economy.
The childhood gig economy where Becca also got paid way better than other people.
You know, I would literally be sitting at a table with like a bunch of like 30-year-old, 40-year-old, like grown ass men. And I would just be like trimming. And then obviously because I was like an innocent little girl, I would literally get paid like 3 times more, and I definitely had it out for me. But that one of the years, like we went down and we trimmed together, and that was honestly an experience.
Honestly. And so then we jumped into like the next level, which became like starting online businesses. And it was at that point, it really was just you starting an online business. I definitely like wasn't as prone to it at first, of like even just seeing the potential. I always felt like, it's actually really funny to talk about this now, and I'm actually going to write an article about it because I think it's a really good topic. But at the beginning, I totally thought the online space was just like scamming other people. And I had this like idea that there was this real business, which is like agencies and brands and all the like brands that you think of, like that you know of. And then there was these like online coaches and like blah, 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 that charge so much more, but also work way less and also like have a good business. And like, it just, it felt too good to be true.
Confusing.
And it definitely felt, and I'm so happy to hopefully try and like really break down these walls or barriers of how could I get started for everyone who's listening. Because at the beginning for me, it felt just really hard to actually get started, where I feel like you kind of just jumped in. And at that point, we had no idea what it was going to become. Like I remember when you closed a $1,200 website, it was like, holy shit, they're going to pay you $1,200 to do this? Because prior you had been doing website updates, stuff like that as a VA on $20-25 an hour. So just that initial jump was like, wait a minute, you could get a whole like 2-week paycheck from a job just for designing this website from home. Because you guys, this was before like everyone and their mom was remote. Yeah. It was like mind blowing. And that was the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah. It really was like, well, I feel like it happened so fast because we really went from being these like young party kids, you know, obviously we were committed to each other, which I feel like made us way more grounded and stable. But on this flip side, like we totally were like crazy wild young party kids that were like traveling. I'm sure we like scared the shit out of our parents all the time. But then it was literally as if it was like overnight. We were like, okay, you know, we're quitting our jobs.
We're actually going to become business people.
We're going to become business owners. I'm sure, obviously I've talked a lot about like family and friends, like not supporting us and stuff. And also I will just give them somewhat of the benefit of the doubt that we were like 20 and we're like, yeah, we're going to become millionaires from starting our own business. I'm an entrepreneur now. And they're like, bitch, what the fuck? You dropped out of high school. But I'm like, no, I'm actually going to do it. I'm going to start an online business. Just watch me. Yeah. And so I think I get how it was like, what the fuck are they talking about? But we really did do it because it all of a sudden was like, within, you know, 6-8 months, we both were completely dependent on our online businesses. We were taking on clients. We started having those like money exchanges where even like you said, the $1,200 obviously make way more than that now. But back then it was fucking huge. And even just like when I got that PayPal invoice, I remember being like, holy shit, babe, we fucking cracked the code.
Honestly.
And I just knew that it was going to go, you know, bigger and bigger from there. But
so at that point, we like, I feel like started to kind of like reap the rewards. We like upgraded. We went from like kind of a shithole apartment into like a new building apartment, still doing also like we were a little bit backwards. We had a 1-bedroom apartment. It was like a nice apartment, but we, for some reason, made it into a studio living room setup with a full work from home office for both of us.
It's because I was working so much though, that I felt like I needed a desk.
It was ridiculous, but we figured it out. We had this like full year. It's the year that we got engaged. It was the year that like, I feel like everything really started to like, just kind of change where Becca was.
And we started to change. I feel like it was
mid Bolden Boho. You hadn't yet launched website in a day. I was working full time.
I was like about to.
I was working full time at a marketing agency. So we at that point like we had bridged the connection of just wanting freedom together to then, okay, at this point we're fully remote together, which I think that unlocked like almost this relationship freedom, because prior to that, I was working away from the house all day. And at that point, you were like in this celebratory state, which actually I bet a lot of people that are listening to this are in this time where you actually are starting to see bits and pieces of rewards in your business. Like no matter what the financial level is, if you're getting a client to send you an invoice that's paid, you're already at the celebratory place. And I felt like at that time I needed to become remote, because I feel like it's selfish to say this, but it wasn't even worth it if you were like scaling this business if we couldn't somewhat be together doing it.
Well, I think we've had that mindset like the entire time though, because if I was remote and I was able to go on a trip when I wanted to, or sleep in and go to brunch on a Tuesday at 11, whatever it was, I was like, okay, you know, at this point we were engaged and we were just starting to feel like our life was like beginning. And I was like, I'm not putting all my effort into this and building this business if my life partner can't enjoy this stuff with me. I don't want to do this alone. I feel like that defeats everything of why I'm doing this. And when I, you know, want to sleep in and cuddle, I don't want to sleep in and cuddle with myself. I want to cuddle with you. And so we always had that mentality. And I feel like even I maybe pushed you more, because I think you had maybe even more influence in your life at that point of like, there's a right way to do it. And you have to work a job. You need to buy a house. You need to work a 9 to 5. Like that's a joke.
Yeah.
And so I think
a lot of it was internalized too, honestly, like just like trying to create regimen and schedule and structure, because I do think that differently, you know, we do crave those things in different ways. And I think that honestly, I am so grateful and feel so like, I don't know, honored that we've been able to build our businesses together. And then like we like go like this, where sometimes we cross over, sometimes we have our own things, and then sometimes we totally come together, which is kind of like how it is right now. And it's been so cool to be able to do that because it's allowed us to both grow and push ourselves internally.
Yeah. We've also tasted like what it looks like to have our own thing.
Yeah.
And I think no matter what, we always come back to each other, which I think is so cool. And I think even last night we were having a conversation, actually, we were at dinner and you had asked me like, what have I done for your business? Right. And you almost asked it in a way of like, I don't know, I felt a tone of like maybe you not thinking that you've done a lot. And I started naming off all these things that you've done. And when I really look back into the business over the last, let's say 3 years, the business is ours. Like we have fully built up who we are as business owners, as entrepreneurs, all the money that's been made, all the clients that have been served, everything in between has been because we are each other's like rocks and we literally do everything together. So even if like you're not doing the job, you're supporting me or you're supporting someone on the team to do it, or you're a soundboard, or you're, creating thought-provoking like strategies, like whatever it is. I think that we've been able to fall into this routine of both bringing what we have, special into the business. And I feel like this is where so many people I feel like they want, and maybe they just don't understand that they could have it, because genuinely, I could not imagine doing this like without you. Definitely sometimes I'm like, oh my God, we spend so much time together. Like we're so codependent because we really spend so much time together. But also I feel like because we spend so much time together and we're so obsessed with the same things, like we're so aligned with growing the business, with growing our life, with doing X, Y, and Z, all the things, we spend so much time making strides forward. And so I couldn't imagine like me and you, maybe on a Sunday, like getting really worked up and really inspired, and then you being gone Monday through Friday, and then maybe Saturday after, not being super tired because of you working all week, then maybe we could touch base. Like it's going to stall momentum. And I feel like because we can almost create this like hyper focused, partnership, we get to move things so much quicker. Definitely. And I feel like so many people have that opportunity, especially if they have, a partner in their life that has other skills. And I feel like it's interesting because I feel like when me and you meet people, or when we see a skill, we fully see how it could be applied in like 100 different ways, where I feel like a lot of people, maybe have a hard time looking at a skill and not translating it to only that one specific skill, where we could be like, no, like, what are you talking about? Like this could literally, your husband could do X, Y, and Z for you. Totally. Have you thought about that? And it's just like, it's like those light bulb moments. But yeah, I'm curious if someone's listening to this and let's say they've been like, oh, I want to bring my husband into my business so bad. I like want what you guys have. I want to be able to have the freedom and do everything together and whatever. What would you say is like the first thing that they should do?
The first thing that they should do is like, I feel like you as a couple need to almost like vision board. I know it sounds like cheesy, but almost like vision board why or what you're wanting out of all of this. And it's not just like, I just want him to not have to go to work. Like, what does it look like? What does it actually do for you? Because I think that
like truly visualizing.
Honestly, I'll be honest. It's going to be harder for your husband to come into the business than you starting your business, just because of like this weird dichotomy of it. I've helped a lot of clients do this, of successfully bringing their husbands in. And I've also had paid clients that I've tried to do this, and it is hard. Like men, speaking from myself, there's a lot of walls and things that we do have to break down and work through, especially going into a feminine business and allowing like that feminine counterpart to succeed and thrive. And like you jump into this support role. Like there's a lot of pieces there. And so first,
especially if they're coming from a really structured background, because that is
so
like,
crazy.
If you look at the difference of, I'm not even going to try and get like super woo woo, but if you just look at the difference of like masculinity and femininity, the feminine side, and obviously we all have it. Like I have masculine and feminine sides. So do you. Everyone has both. But I think men definitely play on the edge of having more masculine sides because we have a society that train you to be more masculine. Like, how many times have you heard, like, don't cry? That literally is like little boys being trained to not express any like of their feminine side. But if you have a business, when you're a business owner, an entrepreneur, the best thing that you can do is like have intuition and have creativity and have empathy. Those 3 skills will be far more successful. And I think that that's what men have to release and like literally relearn. They do have the ability inside of them, because I know that even I've watched you learn those things and be able to like tap more into those things. But I think men are so used to being like this, like regimen structured. No, this is the way, when really there's no this way.
Yeah.
It can be multiple ways, and learning to like, follow like their intuition and be super creative. I think that that's the hardest thing.
So,
but if someone can do that,
if you can do that, you're in the gold mine. So once you've kind of found your vision of why all of the hard work that you're about to put forth is worth it, then you really have to look at what in your business currently is working well enough that if you could add gasoline to the fire, it is about to roar. Yeah. And I mean that in a way of, like, Becca and I have both personal brands. I have a business of my own on the side, and we are both our own entities. I would not recommend, if you're trying to bring your husband into your business, them becoming a brand at the beginning, realistically at all, unless they are interested in jumping into the world of being a content creator, which what I've found from guys is sadly a lot less than girls.
Which is okay though. I feel like
it's fine. But with that being said, really trying to look at, okay, how much is husband making at his job, and how much do we need to bring in additionally, probably on top of that as well, for it to be a safe and seamless transition? Because I know a lot of clients of mine, when they are bringing a husband home from work, it's probably 120% of what he makes that they actually need to match because of like benefits and things like
insurance,
that. Yeah. And so once you've found that number, break it down, whiteboard session it out of what do they need to do to make an ROI in your business? So essentially,
in very simple terms too, like how
I can literally break it down of if husband makes $8,000 a month and you have a website in a day and it's $3,200 a month, that means that you guys are going to be in the green at making 120% of his monthly salary if he closes you 3 website in a days for 3. 96, 9,800 for 3 clients in that month. And I promise you that if you go into Wealthy Web Designer and you watch the modules on engagement and lead generation and do what I'm telling you and just have your husband do it, those numbers can be hit. The second piece is to find what your husband or partner, whatever, wants to actually be doing. And I get that a lot of the things that are actually going to grow your business right now and like put that fuel to the fire, they're not like these dream jobs. Like, it's not like your husband's just going to be like sipping a pina colada in Barbados, just like casually talking to the boys about golf. He's going to be like finding you new clients for web design that are like photographers and things like that. But it can be at home. It can be laying in bed next to you, cuddling. It could be like also running errands with your kids all day. Like, it can adapt to your life in a way that you can see a lot of attraction towards it and realize that that is phase 1.
Yeah, there's also like a lot of different things, because obviously you can look at them. You can almost look at them as 2 ways to bring in money. One is adding fuel to the fire. So if your offer suite is just dialed in and all you need is more and more and more, you're ready to scale and take on more, then have him just drive revenue, have him do lead gen, have him do engagement, have him do sales, all the things that will actually drive sales. Now, the second part, though, is actually internal revenue. So maybe there are things in your business that you could be charging for that your husband could actually learn. Send him through a course on how to learn SEO. Send him through a course on how to do copywriting. Like, whatever it is, build out funnels, build out, like, there are so many different things
that you can just offer under you, and you white label your husband under you.
Exactly.
That is such a good idea.
So like, if you have a website in a day that you charge $3,500 for, and all of your clients need SEO and copy, boom, there's another day. day.
There is also a third option that I'm thinking
Okay.
of, and it's not internal revenue necessarily, but it's internal workflows. So I think that some people that are going to be listening to this, especially that have gone the day rate route, are at a place where you might be feeling like, fuck, like I'm actually seeing a lot of profit in my business. Let's say you're at like $15,000, $20,000 a month. You might be at a point where you realize that there's actually a shit ton of stuff that if your husband could just help you with, and it's not even like just getting sales or things like that. It's like you in the last 6 to 12 months have created this 1-day service that now you're able to charge like $3,000 or $4,000 for. So if you think in your mind, you're like, if I could charge $3,000, if I could just be doing this one extra day a week, I'm bringing in like double what he would be bringing.
What could he do to help you?
Exactly. What could it do? And I will say that this one isn't as long-term sustainable. You have to kind of let this phase into those other two options. But at the beginning, if your business is really profitable, figure out what can happen to like make life better.
Like there were times literally that when I did website in a days and I was like ramping up where I'd have like 2 to 3 a week, Willow would do my mobiles.
Don't ever fucking put me on mobiles again.
But I'm just saying there are things behind the scenes to help. Like if you're ready to outsource, right? And you're going to put money into someone else, maybe you could put the money into your husband and have them learn. 100%. So that's the 3 different ways. So let's recap because I feel like I forgot.
Internal revenue is finding things that you can white label your husband learning under your
like you can charge more for more services.
Second route is external revenue, which means that they jump in and they're doing lead generation and they are actually getting you clients. And I will preface this also that if you're looking for a mighty fine way for the husband to start this, I will give you a hack. I'm big on cheat codes in life. And when we were initially starting, I was trying to sell website templates under Bold and Boho, and I was doing lead gen, and I had a couple of pre-recorded voice notes of Becca saying, oh my gosh, I love your style. This message is going to be going to like a VA, social media manager, shit like that. This voice message is like, oh my God, I love your style. How long have you been blah, 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 blah. Like, have you seen website templates? Or I think that you might need a website. I can't even remember what it said, but it was like a good 20-second long voice note. And I was able to use this to actually start conversations with as many people as I could. And then if it became time that Becca needed to like close something, let her jump back in. But I could get so many conversations ready to close that it would be like, go into your inbox. You have like 10 people ready to close. And so that's a good cheat code if you are wanting to get started.
That's a hack.
Like today. Also, one more thing on that. Your husband doesn't need to quit his job to join your business. Like at the beginning, dedicate 2 hours every evening to it and see how far that gets you before like changing your entire life. You can actually, and I would say you even should be starting to see results from it before that resignation letter goes in.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. And also whatever will like light the fire under your butt, because I think there are 2 different types of people. There's one that, wants this security because they'll be like an anxious mess. And then that will like sabotage them. Or there's the people that will be like, no, this will motivate me. I'm going to quit my job and go all in. That's more who I am. But yeah, I love that. I feel like no matter what, if you have someone that's abled and wanting to with the desire and, is interested in bringing forth like, all these ideas, like fucking do it, because I like could not even imagine if we hadn't done all of this together.
Do it and honestly become a business couple so that we can all hang out, become business couple friends.
Facts. I love that. Well, with that,
we'll see you guys soon. Last episode. So we'll see you guys next season.
Yeah.
5th season is going to be wild, you guys. So get ready for it. We have some really exciting guests coming on. Becca and I have some untalked about topics that I don't know how we've never talked about this before, but it's about to get crazy.
Yeah. And if you want season 5, please do us a favor and leave a review down below, whether you're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, anything. Please leave a review, like, subscribe, do all the things, and let us know that you want season 5, because we do these podcasts for you and we want to make sure that they're wanted and needed. So with that, we will see you guys next season.
See you soon.